morning, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from Mason Works Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone with my new friend, Amanda Hainline. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you this morning?
Great. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so glad to meet you. And I can't wait to have this discussion because I think what you are offering is so important for helping people for right now, because of the stress that people are feeling. So, everyone, Amanda is an energy healer, and she has written a beautiful new book that I don't want to mess up the title, so I'm going to go look at this. Hold on a second, real quick. It's called Feel Better in 5 Minutes, an empowering guide to gain control over your emotions. And basically, I went through a lot of it. And what I found is that if you did things for more than 5 minutes, so the 5 minutes is a shift, but the more than 5 minutes is transformation. So Amanda, could you tell us a little bit about your journey? Because this is honestly, everybody, I hope you share this conversation and help as many people as possible with what Amanda's doing, because this is a time we came here for, to help each other. So anyway, with that.
So I guess it's been 16 years ago now. I was a mom of 2 young kids. I had little boys, 2 and 5, and I was really depressed. I was in a tough marriage. I was just, everything was Groundhog Day. I was feeling like I had no way to express myself and just super frustrated with life in general. And a friend recommended that I go to an energy healer to see if that would help me. And I thought, well, I've tried everything else, short of medication. And so I said, I'll do anything. So I went to one session, not really knowing what to expect. And I felt much better afterwards. I felt lighter and happier. And I thought, wow, maybe this is a way that I can help myself move forward and kind of get out of this rut that I'm in. And so I went back to a second session because I was planning on doing this on an ongoing basis. And the healer said, well, all of your chakras want to open at once, after she did some muscle testing on me. And I said, well, what's a chakra? I don't know what that is. I was raised, in the church. And so that wasn't something that was okay to explore. It wasn't something that was, in my vernacular. So I was like, she said, well, it's just energy centers that go down the middle of your body. Just nonchalantly said that. And I'm like, okay. She's a wonderful lady, but very, very calm. And so she started tapping on my head and my heart. And I felt like I was, this terror washed over me. It was just all of a sudden I had this extreme terror, and I'm just laying on this massage table, but it just, all this fear came up. And then I started screaming and felt like I was burning from the inside out, and my temperature shot up, and I was feeling like I was being electrocuted, and that lasted for about 30 seconds. And then I collapsed on the table. And I said, well, what happened? I felt like I've been hit over the head. And she goes, well, all of your chakras open. I'm like, that tells me absolutely nothing. I don't know what that means.
Kundalini experience without any help or any awareness of it.
Wow. I had no idea what that was. I didn't know for about 8 years what it was called. It took that long to find out. None of the healers that I went to after the fact had any idea what it was called. They just, it was really strange how the universe just kind of kept me from that fact for a long time. But after that experience, I woke up the next morning. I felt really weepy and heavy and awful, and thought, well, this didn't help me the way it did before. I don't know what's wrong. And I went to pick my kids up from school that day, the next day, and I started hearing voices of people around me and feeling all this energy. And I'm like, I don't know what's wrong. Something's wrong with me. I don't know what it is. So I went back and I said to the healer, and I said, you need to fix this. Whatever you did,
put it back.
Put it back together the way it was, because this is too hard. And because I thought this just made my life worse, at the time. And so then I started having nightmares, things attacking me in my sleep. I was hearing voices from angels and the dark side and all these different things it was scary, and I didn't know what to make of it. Plus the PTSD episodes I had that were coming up because all of the emotions and traumas and everything that had been encapsulated in there that I'd stuck away because I didn't have permission to express myself a lot of my childhood and my adult life as well. And so they were all bubbling up and I had no control over how fast they were coming, when they would rear their head. And it would just be like this PTSD wave of me being back in the moment again of these traumas. And so after about 6 months of that, going to healers, learning all I could about energy. It was this crash course in all these different things. And I was doing laundry one day and I thought, I've got this down. I go to the grocery store, I come home, I purge energy, and then I'm okay. And then I go pick my kids up from school and I come home and I do it again, and I thought, well, I can manage this. And I was doing laundry and turned around and I felt something behind me. And I turned around and there were these 3 giant angels in my living room. And I said, what do you want? I got accustomed to these things showing up at my house. And I'm like, just what now? Can I just have a day where you don't bother me? And they said, no, we're going to teach you how to heal people. And I said, you're crazy. My life is a disaster. I mean, do you understand how crazy my life is right now and how stressed I am? And I don't need anything else. Like I can't help myself, let alone anyone else. And they said, no, we're going to teach you. And I argued with them for a while, went and looked for other training. I couldn't find anything. And I finally said, okay, fine. You guys teach me, And so they started teaching me how to work with energy. They started teaching me what a chakra was and how to work with it. And just how to move energy through myself. And then people started showing up in my life that needed help. So I started working with them. And that was, 16 years ago. And I've been doing things like that ever since.
Isn't that cool? So I love that you had this vision with these 3 powerful angels, and you said no. I mean, and in hindsight, don't you wish you said, "Fix me first"?
That would have been a great idea. I didn't think about that. I just didn't want anything else on my plate. I was like, but the interesting thing was the people that were being brought to me over time actually, helped heal me as well. So, we always receive, the wounded healer archetype, they call it, and so we always receive people in that, sometimes what I found is they will use a different person to give me advice, for my situation, I'll be talking to them and I'll go, oh, that was for me too, so it's sneaky how they do that sometimes, but it's always interesting and fun. So
I believe that it all shows up in your perspective that it is for you. But sometimes it doesn't feel like it or look like it. And it doesn't always, it's not always easy. That's the thing is that I find, and right now, especially with the conflict and the chaos and the difficulty that people are having with polarization of worldviews. So your healing modality that you have, you've been able to teach it, and you also have written this book. So is the healing modality in the book?
There's some aspects of it in the book, but my goal with this book was to really kind of open people's eyes to the idea of energy and the fact that we have an energy system, because a lot of people don't even recognize that that's a fact. It's just like your circulatory system or your nervous system, your emotions. I say, well, you can't see your emotions, you can't see your energy system either unless you're trained, and you have that sight. But it doesn't mean it's not real. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't affect you if something's out of whack there. So that was really one of the purposes of the book. It's what I call it, a toe dip book as far as energy healing goes, because just getting people just a little bit comfortable with the premise that you have an energy system and that it is affecting you. And if you address things from that place rather than just an emotional perspective or a mental perspective, you can actually gain a lot of traction in healing your traumas and releasing the energy that's holding you back and is affecting your emotional states. So that was really the purpose of this book. And then I do plan on writing other books where we really get into the nitty gritty of technical chakras and things like that. I've actually been brought a really cool diagram. I woke up at 3 a.m, you know how you do, and downloaded this amazing diagram of how a chakra works and just the intricate inner workings of that. So at some point, I'm going to put all those pieces in a book that really get into the details of what I've been taught energetically and how to do energy work. So, but this book is just introduction so that people don't feel overwhelmed. You know, I didn't want to go too deep.
I understand. I understand the idea of this being 5 minutes. Everybody has 5 minutes, even if you're in a corporate environment and you're in, the Dilbert cubicle kind of thing, you can still go to the bathroom and hide in a stall for 5 minutes, right? So you can take care of yourself, but you have to feel it. So how do you, because you got zapped into feeling, you were numb, and obviously something was nudging you to go not be numb anymore. So you got zapped, which was perfect. Because thank you very much. That way you can help all of us. Yeah. So how do you recommend that people begin to feel? Because I do think that that's what we're seeing, is that the evolution of our species right now is we're being bathed in high frequency photonic energy that's coming from the great central sun. I mean, this is science. This is not my woo-woo life that I live, but I do live, and I'm proud of it. But anyway, but we are being upgraded, and we're going to all become more sensitive. And but right now, you've got a large part of the population that is numb. They are where you were before you were activated.
Right. Exactly. And it's tricky because people are what COVID has done. And when COVID kind of came into being, since I can go out a little more on the woo on this show, which is really cool. I tapped into COVID and I said, why are you here? What is your purpose? And what I heard overwhelmingly is people need to slow down. People need to stop doing and start being. And really, when you think about the construct of how, whether you agree with lockdowns or don't agree with lockdowns, or masks or no masks or vax or no vax, it really, what happened overall for people and what the regulations did is they really forced us to start being instead of just doing, because you're stuck at home, you're by yourself, you're isolated, you're, how many times can you get up and fix your hair or go get a cup of coffee? I mean, there's only so many times, right? And the internet there's only so many things on the internet that you're going to want to look at or spend your time being encapsulated by. So it really caused people to sit with their stuff. It caused them to sit with those emotions, those things that they have been running from constantly. Now they're sitting in it. Right. And some people, I saw a lot of jokes on Instagram and Facebook, a lot of memes saying, oh, I'm just day drinking now, that kind of thing, because a lot of people sadly didn't have a way to deal with their emotions. And then I was seeing a lot of people say, I feel so much fear. I feel so much anxiety and angst. And how do I get away from it? What do I do? Because it's just in the air at that point when we didn't know what was going on. We didn't know when this was going to end or what it was even to begin with, or how it's transmitted, all that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of fear. And so that's what actually led me to write the book was, helping people. I started with a lead magnet that just said, it's called Empath Take Back Your Power. And I still have that on my website. But then I was like, I want to add this too. And I want to add this too. So I think in some ways we're being forced to feel because we've been forced to sit with our stuff. And some people still are numb. They can't feel because they're so locked down. Their energy systems are so arrested. They've got depression. Their anxiety is overwhelming. So what I encourage people to do is just start. Just start by saying, I choose to welcome up this emotion. Don't run from it. Don't hide from it. Just say, hey, I have this. I'm human. I'm feeling this. It's okay that I have anxiety or depression or anger, or whatever you're feeling, and say, I choose to welcome that up and sit with it for a moment and let it be there. And then just say, I choose to release this and anything that it's attached to. And I love that little ending, because whenever you do that, it actually gets a little bit deeper every single time you do it. It's like pulling something out by the root versus just chopping the top off the weed. So when you do that, you're gently kind of unraveling that really deep stuff. And then when you have time, you can sit with it a little more and dig deeper into the base of where that comes from, trauma, thought processes and belief systems, that kind of thing. But it starts to unlock that. So you start to be able to feel and delineate and distinguish between emotions, because a lot of times I call it, snorkeling in muddy water. I was doing that one time, several years ago in Mexico, and I kept running into things. I was like, well, and the water was like 2 feet deep, and I'm trying to, figure out and feel my way around. I'm like, I just need to stand up. What am I doing? So sometimes we just need to stand up and come out of it and say, okay, now I can see a little bit clearer. And you start to delineate the emotions, just start to call them out by name. And that's one of the reasons that I listed emotions in the book, because a lot of times we can't distinguish what we're actually feeling. So there's a list for you to put words to the feelings that you're having. And, sometimes it's a shot in the dark. Oh, maybe I'm feeling despair right now, try that out. Maybe I'm feeling grief, it's never just one thing. So I do encourage people to just kind of play with it. There's no right or wrong way. I think that's another thing, is a lot of us in this, in society, and how we're raised through school and everything, is there's a right answer and a wrong answer, and we have this black and white perspective. And that is totally not how it is with this. There's definitely more than one way to do it. But just by starting out with that simple exercise, that technique of just choosing to release the emotion, not I want to release the emotion, because then your energy system says, oh, you want to, but you're not really that serious,
Right.
But if you're choosing to, that's a really powerful word. And it's a key thing whenever you're working with energy.
Well, I love lots of things about this book. One of the things you have, the chapter 1 is emotions are not who you are. And I think that we don't realize our stories are like spells. And every time we tell our stories, like I was a single mom raising my daughter, and da 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 da, and then that victimization thing can keep going all the way through, and I can find something else to be a victim for. How that's the thing, is how do people break free from identifying with the emotions, because what we resist persists.
Right. Exactly. So what we do to kind of shortcut language whenever we're talking about emotions is we say, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm sick, I'm angry, I am. If you break out the contraction, I am, fill in the blank, but that's actually not a healthy thing to do, because when you do that, what it's doing energetically is it's winding that emotion into your being like a tight string. I talk about in the book, and it becomes part of your identity. It becomes who you are. And so then your subconscious and your energy system says, well, I can't release depression. I can't release anxiety because it's who I am. So, well, that's just how I am. You've heard people say that. I'm just saying, nothing ever works for me, whatever. And it's that victimization standpoint. But what I encourage people to do is say, emotions are meant to be experienced. We're here having a human experience, and emotions are a big part of that. So instead of saying I'm depressed or I'm anxious or I'm angry or I'm sick, I am experiencing anger. I am experiencing anxiety. I am experiencing that. So what your mind starts to do, your subconscious starts to do, and your energy system starts to do is it starts to separate that and hold it separate from who you are. So then you can start actually releasing that. You can start releasing that emotion from your energy system and your subconscious so that you're not holding on to it. You're, oh, that's an experience. You know, you're not meant to, if you go to an amusement park, and get on a roller coaster, you're off in 2 minutes. You know, I mean, that's what's supposed to happen. You're up and you're down and you're scared and you're not scared and then you're exhilarated. You know, that's how emotions are supposed to be experienced as well, is moving through that rather than it being your identity. Because it's not healthy to hold on to those emotions, because they can turn into physical illness over time.
Right, right. Well, so what are you seeing though, as a way to release that? Because first is identifying it. And as you said at the very beginning of the lockdown, I think a lot of the everybody's stuff was showing up. Everybody's bad self-talk, or their fear of death, or afraid that they didn't complete their assignment. Like a lot of people that are further along already knew they came here for a reason, and yikes, I didn't get it done. Right. But right now we're going through this period of, we're going to have immense change. The systems, it's astrological. We're going into the age of Aquarius, where we're going from this patriarchal dominated system to a more balanced and more feminine system. And so it's peace, you know, the whole fifth dimension song, you know, peace will guide the planet. That's the truth of it. And we have to get out of these systems to those systems. So anyone that's here is going to have to be okay with change.
Right.
And
Exactly.
change brings up all your PTSD, all any fear. It's like, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. It's, you know, one of the things that I didn't talk about in the book, because it's a little more energetic, is structures. And what I've found over the years working with people is, as they're releasing emotions and as they're releasing these, you know, energy from their traumas and all that kind of stuff, it's extremely helpful to do all of those things. You know, digging down and really understanding where your trigger's coming from. You know, if like in a relationship, a lot of times people will have this fear of abandonment, and so they tend to create the abandonment for themselves. Abandonment, I think, is the trickiest structure for people to deal with. It's the trickiest emotion for people to deal with, because it crops up in all of these little ways. We do this self-sabotage to ourselves. But if you can dig down and really understand, you know, when I was 3 and my father left, or you know, when my mother died, or emotionally my mother couldn't be there for me because she was depressed, or whatever, there's all different kinds of abandonment, and we tend to precipitate and relive that throughout. So if you can really dig down and say, you know, I know that this is coming from this experience from when I was little, and start digging into the emotions of that and saying, I choose to release the energy from that experience when I had this abandonment and everything that it's attached to, you know, and you start digging down and follow the train of emotions. I felt fear, I felt anger, I felt sadness, I felt grief, you know, and you go through each emotion individually. You can do it as a group, or you can do it individually. And there's pluses and minuses to both, you know, doing it both ways. But after you really get to the point where you feel like you've released it, but you're like, it just still feels kind of stuck. A lot of times it's because the structure, the energetic structure that was holding those emotions, is still there. And
Right.
as we're moving into this new space, as we're moving into this new age, you know, you said of Aquarius, more heart center, more feminine, that kind of thing. These very rigid structures that all of this old energy was built on really need to go.
Right.
And so you can actually start dismantling those. You say, I choose to release this structure and anything that's attached to the structure that this trauma was sitting on, the structure that this abandonment was setting on, whatever it is, and just start. You can even envision, kind of, when I see a structure, most of the time it looks like scaffolding, kind of, or like the girders in a building, you know, that kind of stuff. And I just start pulling that stuff out, you know, and just start pulling that stuff out. And when you start removing the structure, what happens is new energy comes in to fill that new space. and then a new structure forms, and then new energy can come into that. It's like when you break a contract, into contract, whatever. It's very similar to that. So I've found that that's a really helpful thing to do in addition to, just clearing out emotions.
Well, I love this. And I want to let everyone know, if this is new information for you, that this is our evolution. The opportunity to release these pent up energies, give you the gift of you, and the amount of energy that you don't even realize, the amount of energy you put out to block stuff, that if you could not have to block things, like if you're sensitive and you walk into a room and you feel like you have to have armor on, well, you're putting all your energy out there instead of here. But once you clear these things one by one, you shine from here out, correct?
Right, exactly. When you walk into a room and there's a lot of dense energy in there, negative energy, that kind of stuff, it's going to attach to those emotions that you have inside, because like attracts like, and it acts like a magnet. So if you've got anxiety inside of you, even if you don't think you have anxiety or fear or anger, whatever it is, a lot of times when you're in those environments, that feeling can get exacerbated. And what I tell people is, don't be a victim of that. Use it as an opportunity. It's a flashlight. Those other emotions or whatever energies, entities, things that are attach to you in those spaces, it's a flashlight to let you see, what you need to let go of. And once you start letting those things go and your vibration rises and changes, then that's going to happen less and less as you go along. So it's a really powerful exercise. Don't be necessarily afraid to go into those environments from a standpoint of feeling like you're going to get attacked or hurt and that kind of thing. If you shift the perspective and say, I'm empowered by this.
Right.
And I choose to release that. Wow, it gives me an opportunity to dig deep and really get down for what it's attached to and get it out. Because a lot of times, if you don't have these situations come up, if you're not triggered, you can't get very deep,
Right.
because we have these triggers to kind of electrify everything so that we can pull it out. So I encourage people to not look at that as a victim state and really be empowered by it instead.
So another thing I wanted to ask you about is as far as heart opening, because I find originally, I don't remember how long ago, but when I first had my heart opening, I thought I was having a heart attack almost. It was like crack open. And are you seeing that now as well? Because what you went through was pretty dramatic, and we don't want to scare anybody out there that
Right.
is starting to understand this journey. You guys, it's the other side is so worth this clearing. You can't imagine the delight you're going to have. That's what we were supposed to have, heaven
Right.
on earth.
Exactly. Yeah. I like to tell people that what happened to me, if you've never had energy work done, or if you're just starting to cross over into this space and you're curious, don't think that this is what's going to happen to me if I do this. This is not super common. What happened to me is kind of, I didn't say extraordinary, but it's definitely not in the ordinary when you get energy work. When you get energy work, normally it's this gradual spiritual awakening and beautiful experience of unfoldment. So it's important to know that, I think, for people.
Right.
And the heart energy, I have seen a lot of people leaving the planet because they were very troubled. Their heart was closed. They were really struggling with emotions in their life in general. And so their heart just couldn't take it. We're moving into a lot of heart energy right now. So really working on expanding that energy in your heart. If you've had love aches, heart aches, really working on those emotions that are related to the heart chakra and the heart center are very, very key right now in shifting your perspective of life and your ability to have relationships and just love yourself. Honestly, that's the biggest thing, because if you love yourself, everything else really starts to fall into place. And it's layers. Sometimes people say, I've got it. It's this. And I'm like, for now, yes. I'm glad you're there. You've taken another step. So good, but it's definitely peeling an onion, as you go along. And I'm sure you know that.
Well, what I love is introducing my audience, which are small business owners that are conscious businesses, that have staff, and they're in service to their employees as much as to their customers, but who's in service to them. So I want to introduce you and your book as a resource for them to be able to fortify what they're doing and get some help to show up and be able to enjoy the game that they've created, because that's what I think it is. And so again,
Yes.
want to make sure everyone knows Amanda wrote a wonderful book called Feel Better in 5 Minutes. Everybody has 5 minutes, an empowering guide to gain control over your emotions. And I wanted to ask about, as far as in the book again, you have customized feel better plans. Well, everyone wants to feel better now. So can you talk a little bit about a feel better plan?
So what I did in the book is I did the 5 common emotions that I see, the ones I see the most. And those are expressed anger, repressed anger, depression, and then anxiety and physical illness are the 5. I was like trying to think of off the top of my head. And so those are the 5. And so what I did is I went through the book and I put together kind of protocols for people, because there's 79 exercises in the book, 79 techniques. And so that's a lot. I mean, and for some people, I didn't want that to be overwhelming. I didn't want you to look at it and go, what am I supposed to do? But if you're having one of those 5 kind of common things going on, you can flip to, I believe it's chapter 12, and look at the different plans for those particular issues. And there's a list of different exercises or techniques that are in that particular section that you can just go through one by one if you want to, or pick and choose within that, okay, well, I know these are good for me. I know these will work. And they're everything from the physical elements to different kinds of techniques throughout the book. And so they're just in a little package for people. If you just want to flip to that part and just do those, it'll really be helpful for you.
Oh, it's a fantastic resource, you guys. She's done a great job of giving you simple, easy access ways to change your state, your emotional state, and to get you relief right away. And as I mentioned before, 5 minutes of doing this would help you just get out of that trigger, but 10 minutes or longer or a regular schedule of this could be transformative. And that's really what Amanda's offering in the long run, is she's offering you the starting point to transform your life, right?
Yes. And the nice thing is, really, 5 minutes is kind of it's a little catchy, the title. It's a very like societally driven title, because we want to have we want to be empowered and we want to be, have control over something. It's kind of hitting all those mental check boxes, but actually a lot of these techniques can be done way faster than 5 minutes. Once you do them, a few times and you kind of get it down, they can be done. I mean, I normally do them in sometimes 15 seconds, the grounding exercise, or just taking in a few deep breaths, breathing in blue if I'm a little angry at something, and it just really helps if you do it fast. You can before a call, or if you've got a stressful meeting or something that you're walking into and it's kind of a lion's den situation, you can do a little bit of grounding, dig your roots into the ground, breathe up through your roots, just get yourself really centered and focused so that when those questions come at you, and your nerves aren't going to get the better of you in those situations. So it's definitely something that can be used faster than 5 minutes if you need just kind of a quick first aid emotional reset.
Well, and I think the fact that they're easy snippets like that you can remember to do them. That's the other thing. It's not like doing the epigenetics, where you have to go to the science and let's see, I breathe this way, and all of this stuff. We need fast. I mean, just like our society is so used to pressing a button and getting an answer on the internet, we need fast remedies during this time. I did a interview with someone who's just delightful, who wrote a book about highly sensitive women. And she did the research, and 20% of the population on the earth is highly sensitive.
Wow, that's higher than I would have figured. Wow, but I can see that. I can see that. You do see a lot of that. And I think a lot of people don't understand that in themselves. They think something wrong with them. They get accused of being too sensitive all the time. But the fact is, they're just perfect the way they are.
Right.
It's just getting it to a place of self-acceptance and clearing out those emotional states. Because if you're highly sensitive, you're going to be soaking up more of that stuff. Your energy system is just more permeable in general. And working on those emotional states and releasing that and really digging down in the traumas actually makes your energy system, your aura, less permeable. In some ways, it helps your boundaries. It really does help your boundaries be in a much more healthy place so that you're not going to be taking on as much of that energy. So it's definitely a great tool for that.
So the other thing you mentioned earlier in our conversation was PTSD, and I think that that's a hot topic in a lot of ways, because people are getting triggered and then they're spiraling, and it's almost as though they're spiraling and they're in a time capsule where they go back in, like the trigger presses a button, and they go back in time, and they're stuck in this loop of either the self-talk or the perception of it. But how do you deal with that? Because you did bring up PTSD.
Yeah, I know for myself when I was going through it, it's very scary, and I've known a few people to go through it that have ended up in the emergency room because I thought I was having a heart attack. I couldn't breathe. I just was in this almost psychotic place that I just was seeing. I was reliving this over and over again. And there's different levels of PTSD triggers.
Right.
It's a spectrum, right? And so that's the extreme of it. The part of it that's not extreme that we may not even realize is just being triggered in general. The fear a lot of times, if we have, especially if we're particularly convicted on one side of the fence or the other. You talked about polarity. People are they're very convicted. They're very charged emotionally about their particular perspective, and they get upset when other people don't understand, or they get very upset when other people aren't doing what they're doing because it's a different belief system from them. So what I encourage people to do, I actually had I was on a call yesterday and we were talking about this very thing. And I said, what you have to realize is everyone's perspective comes from their own experience. So, your perspective comes from obviously a highly emotionally charged experience that you had at some point in your life. And that's why you feel so convicted about your choice, right? Whatever that is, or your perspective, or the way that you conduct yourself in your life, and realizing that someone else on the other end of the spectrum has had an equally charged emotional experience, traumatic experience that's caused them to have the perspective that they have. And so if you can kind of get to that place of saying, wow, they must have had something equally as traumatic or equally as stressful that has happened to them, it allows you to start understanding that everyone comes from the best interest in their own life. So that's one of the things. And another thing is understanding if you're highly triggered and you're highly emotional in that space and you want to shift that, say, okay, where's this fear coming from? It's not just, it's never the situation right in the moment. It's
Right.
always something deeper. And realizing that, when you're in an argument with somebody, what I tell people is it's not the situation that you're having right now. If someone did something, you're not being heard, you're not being seen, you're not being validated, and that's hurtful to you. And that's what it's about. It's not about the fact that someone left out the milk and now it's spoiled. It's not about the milk. It's about you feel like you weren't being validated or taken into consideration. So dig deeper. How were you treated as a child? What kind of things did you go through when you were a child, or that caused you to feel this way? Did you have a parent that wasn't loving and maybe manipulative or hurtful to you? That kind of pattern has been set up over time. And so when people treat you like that in life, or you have a perception that you're being treated that way, it's a trigger for you. So digging deeper and understanding that that's coming from a particular place. And that's what chapter 3 is all about in the book, is really getting down. It's called the Feel Better Assessment. And so digging down and understanding where these emotions are coming from and where the triggers are coming from, so you can start unwinding that. Because the more we understand where stuff comes from, the easier it is to start kind of unraveling that and shifting our fundamental perspective. And the way we know we're doing that is if some subject comes up, some situation comes up, and you've been working on yourself, say, I don't know if this is working, I don't know if it's doing anything. And then that comes up and you go, oh, I didn't react to that. Wow,
Right.
that's crazy. I can't believe that I didn't get upset by that, and you'll walk around all day scratching your head, but it's because you've started to shift those underlying beliefs, and it gives you so much more emotional freedom. It really does.
Exactly. Well, this book, it could be the perfect thing for you to get before Thanksgiving with your family,
Yes.
honestly.
Yes. There's a lot of people out there that do need it for that. Yeah, it's can definitely big help.
Well, the thing is that if everyone did these 5-minute uh, releases, I'm going to call them releases because
Mhm.
that's the way I really see it,
Right.
and 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 came from a different space of wonder and wanting to experience other people's thing. I mean, you can just sort of, you're in a meeting or you're in a group, and the person just keeps telling their story and their story and their story, and you can try to say, don't you realize you're creating that? Don't you? You can try, but otherwise you just hold space and just love them, because that's what their soul, I believe, their soul picked their parents, picked the whole thing for them to have an experience. And who knows what that was, because
Yes.
sometimes it's really confusing. But if everyone could read this book and have it handy, have it in their purse during Thanksgiving dinner, I think they'd be happier. I think
Yes.
they'd really benefit.
Yes. Well, and there's quick, you can flip to the end of the chapter and get I put all of the techniques, the releasing techniques at the end of each chapter as well. So you're not having to thumb through the entire thing in your purse. I'm planning on coming out with a deck eventually that's going to have, that you can pull cards for, what
Yeah.
emotion's affecting me today. And it'll have the name on there, and it'll have a technique or two on the back of the card as kind of the plan, that's all still in the works. But definitely, I think that's something that would be helpful for people as well. So that's definitely in the plan.
Well, the other part of this that you'll see once you read the book is that you'll see that emotions really are good. They're I mean, we have emotions, ego have gotten a bad rap. And
Mhm.
really, truly, we came here. This is a unique experience being human, because emotions is part of the makeup. And that really is not that it totally differentiates us from the other beings on this planet, because they have emotions, but we express it and we learn, we modify our knowledge by our emotions. We modify our experience in our projection. I think we're in a hologram. I'm going to really go out there now. But I think I've got my little hologram and you've got your little hologram, and sometimes our holograms play together. And emotions is a big part of that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's absolutely true. Yeah, it's true. I mean, we're interacting with people for a reason, you know, and I mean, we could get into contracts and soul families and soul paths and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I do believe all of that's definitely an interplay. And some of us are meant to get different places than others in our lifetime. You know, some people will stay stuck in the victim space their entire life, you know, because that was their journey this time, and that's
Right.
okay. You
Right.
know, and we can decide how much to play with that person. You know,
Right.
is it
Right.
beneficial to us? You know, sometimes it is to a point, and sometimes it's not. You know, it just depends. And so that's part of the, you know, as you release emotions and as you get clearer and clearer about who you are, why you're here, and understanding the emotional states, and you get that clarity and you release that trauma and you're not being triggered, you have a lot more clarity and clearness around who you need in your life and to what capacity you need them and what your path is. Do you need that job or do you need to look for something else? Your world starts opening up and your possibilities expand whenever you have that
Yeah. And when you have all that energy, you can project and create. This is where the law of attraction and all of the ideas of gratitude journals and vision boards and all of that. If your energy is all gobbed up in your old story and it doesn't serve you, then certainly check out this book and check out Amanda's work, because she could help guide you. Because you'll know if your story mess is happening, if thing after thing, scene after scene of your life stays the same, only with different actors. So same boyfriend, same landlord, same whatever, but you're the variable. You stay the same bad boss. How did I get that same boss again? Well,
Yeah, we have these blind spots when you have traumas that actually creates blind spots. And so you don't see, you know, how many times have you been in a bad situation and people are like, yeah, I saw that coming. You know, like, how did you see it coming? I don't understand, because they don't have the same blind spot as you. They don't have the same trauma that they're the same lens that they're looking through life with. So it's just an opportunity for you to start releasing things. And it's not an instantaneous
right.
process as far as unwinding all of that stuff. It does take time, but it's definitely worth the journey.
Right. Well, we are creator beings. I don't want to say creator gods because that might offend some people, but that's kind of my thought. And we are creating our environment, our new earth. We're dreaming the new dream in, and the best way to do that is when you already have done some of this work to clear, so you can love yourself enough to think you deserve the new earth.
Right. Yes. Definitely. Definitely. Having that acceptance of self allows you to have the acceptance of everything that's coming to you, for sure.
Yes. So could you give us some examples of some changes that you saw from people that have used your 5 minute changes, or some of your clients that you've seen this? Because I'm sure you've got some amazing stories.
There's a few from in the book, but one of the things is that I see a lot of people come in with physical illnesses. And, you know, there's a client that I talk about in the book that came in and she had autoimmune disorder. She had thyroid disorder, you know, and how she got to that point was just constantly retreating, not speaking her truth, beating herself up. She had all this repressed anger and all of that, and she was very sick. Her gut was really messed up. You know, she had all these problems going on and she was very depressed. And so I started teaching her how to release her emotion. She was very much in a victim state. When you're in a lot of pain and when you don't feel good, it's hard to break that cycle of that, right? Because then something, you know, she was dealing with a narcissistic ex-husband as well and 3 kids. And I mean, it was a mess. And I said, you know, you have to start somewhere. You have to start shifting. Even if you see one little ray of sunshine after doing these techniques, that's something. And so I encourage people to always hold on to those little nuggets and keep going back to that. So what I did was I worked with her. I taught her to start releasing her emotions. I gave her permission to be angry. I said, you need to have permission to be angry. You know, I taught her some of the techniques in the book about repressed anger. And she's like, I feel so silly doing this. I said, I don't care. It doesn't matter. That's kind of the point, you know, because you're not comfortable with it. You know, our mind goes things, right? So, you know, you have to start exploring that. So she started releasing those emotions, and she started speaking up for herself, and she started creating boundaries for herself with her ex-husband and at her job and different things. And she goes, I feel so much better. I just told them no, and they were okay with it. And I can't believe that, you know, they didn't yell at me. And I said, yeah, you have permission to be a person. You know, you're not a robot in this world walking around numb. You know, you can start being a person. And her physical symptoms, while they didn't, you know, completely alleviate, they started to get better. And she started to have a different, healthier perspective when she would have a flare up of her thyroid or her gut or whatever. She's like, well, I know this isn't forever. You know, she started coming in and saying that. I know if I work on it, there's got to be an emotional component to it. She would dig down and say, oh, you know what? Last week, she goes, it's usually 4 or 5 days after the fact of a stressor that I have a flare up. She's like, so I know now that I can reduce the amount of flare up that I have if I start working on it immediately. Doing these emotional releasing, because it doesn't 100% solve it, but it's definitely improved. So that's one of the examples that I love sharing with people, because it's really powerful. You can start to feel empowered and understanding the connection between the physical and the emotional and energetic when you start doing these techniques. So
Right. Well, and again, we're magical beings, and if all your energy is tied up in knots, as you said, and because you haven't really gotten to the core lesson, that may have been the lesson that your soul chose to have. So hopefully, if you're watching this and you're fascinated by it, that you'll take advantage of this wonderful book, Feel Better in 5 Minutes, an empowering guide to gain control over your emotions. And there's 79 processes inside it that are quick, 5-minute or less processes that could get you out of an uncomfortable state into joy. And that's the journey we want, right?
yes, absolutely.
So, Amanda, is there anything else that you'd like to share? Because we are going in, this is November, and we are going in to, you know, this has been a hard year for most people, or it's been a year of change. And some people like change, some people don't. I do, but not everybody does. What is there anything else that you would like to share with people to give them some inspiration about how you see this time period?
Well, November is a month that we tend to go to gratitude, you know, because, you know, the thankful season, which is, I think it's important to have in between Halloween and Christmas. You know, it kind of gets sandwiched in there. And if we could just hold the space for that thankfulness, it's actually very powerful. You know, there's a practice like on Facebook, you know, people say, oh, thankfulness day one, I'm thankful for this, I'm thankful for that. And it really is a powerful thing to be doing, because it does create a space of allowing yourself to look at things more positively. So going into the season, I would encourage people to do that. And then be the center of the storm, be the eye of the storm. If there's all this stuff swirling around you, just coming in and envisioning light inside of yourself, and then just breathing that light in and out into your energy system is going to allow you to stay centered. You know, breathing up energy from the ground, breathing in energy and light from source, and just staying in the middle of that, so that when things are swirling around you, you can actually stay very grounded and connected inside yourself, making the best decisions, having the best responses at Thanksgiving if somebody triggers you, because it's not about you, it's about them. And then just really what my biggest thing and why I'm here is to help people understand they have an energy system. Keeping it clean, keeping it healthy is just as important as physical exercise. Eating healthy, it's all part of the same package. So if you can do that, then you'll be much better off.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And again, I really can't recommend this book enough for anybody, even if you have been doing a lot of work, especially if you're in situations where even if you are grateful for the trigger as it shows up, you still want to clear it, because again, what Amanda's talking about is being the observer, watching and being centered in your own love and guidance, and knowing that everything is fine and well in the world. That's right. We're not being told that, but hey guys, there's a happy ending to all. And so this is a way for you to get to your awareness of enjoying the ride and finding a way to your happy ending with ease and grace. So thank you so much, Amanda. And Amanda, the best ways for people to find you are?
My website at amandahainline.com, and you can follow me on Instagram at akhainline. And also I have a Facebook group called Daily Energy with Amanda Hainline.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I'm going to check that out. And I wish we were friends on Facebook. We'll have to work on that.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, but thank you so much. And thank you so much for the work you're doing, because there couldn't have been a better time for you to publish this work. It'll help everyone, even people that have been on this journey for a long time, because people talk about being in the eye of the storm and staying there, but we're being tested. We are
Absolutely.
being tested.
Yes.
So again, please go and look at amandahainline.com. It's AmandaHainline.com. And it'll be in the comments for everybody. But please go look at her work. And if you are attracted, please make an appointment with her and learn how she can help you through these times, because you're more powerful than you know, and we would be blessed to have you in your power. Anyway, thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it so much. Bye bye. Thank you. Talk again soon.